All right, it is that time. It is that time of week for me to give you my weekly picks. It's week 5 already. I can't believe that. And it's also going to feel kind of odd to me sitting there on Sunday and being able to watch other games for other teams, not having to be worried about checking out Bears football because they already played on Thursday night. And yeah, America didn't have to fully suffer through Bears football in prime time for a change. They actually might have been slightly entertained because the Bears offense in the first half was putting up points. The Commanders secondary said, we're not covering any fucking buddy, specifically named DJ Moore, because why the fuck would you, right? And in the second half, the Eberflush defense tried its best to choke it up, but they didn't. But at least I could say, hey, when you go back to my prediction video, I had the Commanders winning, but I did have the Bears cover spread, so that happened, so that's a positive, I guess. But yeah, like I've been struggling with my picks against the spread, just not good this year, won't even talk about it. I'm okay in picking the winners straight up, but that doesn't feel like that's much of a challenge, right? Again, I think my biggest success so far is like keeping my streak alive of hitting at least one parlay of plus 1,000 or greater odds on DraftKings so far this year. That's about it. So anyways, I'm going to talk now about my week 5 picks. Got several marquee matchups to talk through. I'm going to start with the Sunday games, and we'll start with Sunday morning, the London game. The Jaguars and the Buffalo Bills. And this is what you would view as kind of like a marquee matchup, right? 2 playoff teams, 2 division winners from last year. You know, the Buffalo Bills coming off of an impressive and dominant performance against the Dolphins last week. Meanwhile, the Jags able to sit there and stay in London. You know, last week they hosted the Atlanta Falcons and they put it to them. Now you've got this game. You know, this could have some real, like, playoff implications, right? It could have some potential playoff seeding and positioning implications. This is a big one. That's a good way to start off an early Sunday morning of football. Jolly ho, whatever the hell the English say. For this one, you know, it's hard for me to gauge right now. Like, the Jags having 2 consecutive games in London. How does that work, right? Like, is that an advantage for them? Is that a disadvantage for them? And you initially would say that is an advantage because they didn't have to do the travel this week. But how much is it an advantage? That I don't know. Like, we're kind of somewhat in uncharted territory here. Meanwhile, for the Bills, coming off of that big performance against the Dolphins and now having to go across the ocean, you know, will they come into this game emotionally ready? Will they come into this game a little flat? Will there be a little bit of a letdown? I certainly wouldn't think there would be a letdown facing the Jags. You know, sucks for the Bills. They lost Tre'Davious White for the year due to a torn Achilles. That sucks. Like, that's a guy, damn it. He is really good, but he really is injury prone as shit. It sucks. The Bills are favored by 5.5 here, which is certainly a reflection of the Jags have not looked great the first 4 games of this season. I do like the Bills to win this one, but I do like the Jags to cover the 5.5 point spread. Again, it's kind of hard for me to gauge this one, but that's where I'm going with. A surprisingly intriguing matchup in the AFC South. Speaking of AFC South teams, you got the Titans traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. You know, the Titans sit there at 3-1 with some solid victories over teams like the Bengals, teams like the Chargers. Meanwhile, the Colts come in. They're 2-2. They're right in the mix in that division. Excuse me, the Titans are 2-2. Who fucking gives a shit? It's the Titans. Nobody cares. But you look at this and you've got 2 teams that right now certainly seem like they're poised in the mix in that AFC South where everybody is just kind of bunched together, right? For the Colts, like Anthony Richardson, a time and a chance for him to really shine. These are the types of games that early on in his career, you want to see him come out and play well. You're at home. You're taking on a divisional opponent. Like, these games matter more than some of the others. And he is an exciting dude. And, like, everything I've seen from him so far at the NFL is the shit that I saw from him in college. He's raw. He needs work. But that physical talent is immense. And his ability to make plays is unbelievable. The Titans, though, are favored by 2.5 in this one. And I get the sense that they beat the Colts twice last year. I think they'll do the job on Sunday. Give me the Titans minus the 2.5. Colts fans are like, yes, we avoided the Jeff Chicks. Yes. Certainly a game that's going to be very hyped up, as it always is, because it is one of the best rivalries in the NFL. It's the Ravens traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I guess Kenny Pickett's going to start here. Not that it would matter much. Like, Pickett's not good and Trubisky stinks, so it doesn't really matter. Meanwhile, the Ravens coming into this one 3-1 certainly have to feel like they've got a little bit of momentum. We'll see like who they've got that can actually catch passes from Lamar this week. But it's not looking good for the Steelers right now, right? Like, they got their asses kicked against the Texans last week. Offensively, defensively, their coaching staff, like, the Houston Texans just thoroughly gutted them. And if the Texans could do that, I certainly would expect the Baltimore Ravens can. So give me the Ravens minus the 4.5. Another marquee matchup this time in the NFC. It's the Eagles travel with their undefeated record traveling to Los Angeles to take on the 2-2 Rams. And when you look at this game for the Eagles, they're coming off of an overtime thriller against the Commanders last week, which they were able to win. But we just watched the Commanders on Thursday night. And you could say, well, they punch up the Commanders when they play the Eagles and play them really tough. Perhaps. Right? That's one of the things about divisional games sometimes. But the Commanders stink. And the Eagles struggled to put them away. The Bears as a whole were more impressive against the Commanders on Thursday night than the Eagles were last Sunday. That should be a little bit of a red flag here. Meanwhile, for the Rams, this is a game they absolutely have to have. If they have any belief or any shot in the world at all that they can catch and stay on pace with the 49ers in the NFC West, they've got to win this one. And even when you think about wild card positioning, this is a really important game for the Rams. It's an in-conference game. You never know what happens if the Eagles, don't win that division. It ends up being the Cowboys that win the East, which is a possibility, right? Like, the Rams really need this one. The Eagles are favored by 4.5, but I really don't like what I've seen from them so far. They feel a little off. They're not quite the same as last year. I keep picking the Rams. Maybe I'm trying to validate and justify my preseason prediction for them winning the NFC West, which admittedly was probably dumb, but it was me trying to rock the boat a little bit. But I'm going to take the Rams here plus the 4.5. Arguably the biggest game on Sunday, the most intriguing, most interesting game on Sunday, because it could be a preview of what we see in the NFC Championship game, and that's the Dallas Cowboys at Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are favored by 3.5 here. And when you talk about teams and you talk about overall rosters, these are two of the absolute best in the NFC. These are two of the absolute very best in the National Football League. And when you talk about defensive impact stars, the Cowboys have Micah Parsons. The 49ers have Nick Bosa. Like, you've got star power all over the place. Offense, especially when you talk about the 49ers with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk. That's a hell of a fucking roster, right? On both sides of the ball for the 49ers. But the Cowboys are no slouches. You've got CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. You've got, I guess you'd say Dak Prescott. I don't know. You would say maybe the Cowboys have a bit of an advantage here at quarterback, but maybe they don't because Purdy is perfectly positioned to execute what Shanahan does offensively. I'll be really fascinated to see how this one plays out because it's going to be a big one. I'm going to take the 49ers minus the 3.5. So you can check out my picks to all the games for Week 5 in the description box below. We will see how this thing plays out. I'll see you later.